Yo, what's good everyone? Today I'm going to be breaking down some of my favorite tournament or GPP plays for this Week 5 NFL DraftKings main slate. Let's dive right into it. And like we always do here in these videos, I'm going to give you a high-level overview of my cheat sheet, breaking down a couple of game stacks that I like targeting here this week, as well as some of my favorite individual plays and stacks. But before we dive into that, everyone, if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. It's completely free to do, and every like, comment, and sub that you guys leave truly helps me out. And speaking of free, I do run a free Discord channel as well. You can see that mentioned above. If you want to join that, there's a link to do so in the description below, as well as in the pinned comment below. We have over 850 people in there today talking multiple different sports for DFS and sports betting. So again, if you want to join that, link to do so in the description below, as well as in the pinned comment below. With that being said, let's dive into a couple of game stacks that I like targeting here this week, starting with this game between the Washington Commanders and Los Angeles Chargers. Now, I truly believe we can stack up either side here. I love the pass catching options on the Los Angeles Chargers side of things. If you wanted to roll out, let's say, Herbert with Quentin Johnston, Keenan Allen, or Ladd McConkey, and then run it back with a couple of Commanders, I absolutely think that's in play. I'll mess around with that myself too. But I'm kind of looking at some of the projected ownerships right now. Justin Herbert is projected to be the second highest owned quarterback in week 5, whereas Jaden Daniels coming in around 3, 4, 5% projected ownership. So I kind of like pivoting away from the Chargers and Herbert side of things, running it back with them at least. Going Jaden Daniels here with Deebo Samuel and Zach Ertz. We got no Terry McLaurin or Noah Brown here this week for the Commanders. They didn't even travel with the team. So these are going to be the top 2 pass catchers. And then running it back here with Omari and Hampton and Ladd McConkey. McConkey is projected to be the lowest owned of the top 3 wide receivers. Again, Quentin Johnston, Keenan Allen, and Ladd here. So I'm just basically saying, hey, you're the lowest owned, but you still have some nice upside. I know he's been disappointing so far this year, but we saw some of the games he had as a rookie last year, so I like going that route at a really solid price. Honestly, there's just massive shootout potential in this game. There's a number of different ways that we can stack it up, but this is my preferred route. And then another game stack that I like here this week is this game between the Seahawks and Bucks, and I don't think we need to get too crazy doing full game stacks here. We could keep it simple. You could go with Sam Darnold, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, run it back with Igbuka or Rashad White. I listed as a full game stack here because there's some very affordable pieces. Obviously, Sam Darnold at $5,100. Love this spot for him against this Buccaneers secondary. Stacking him up with his number 1 pass catcher in Jackson Smith and Jigba. And then a cheaper route here with A.J. Barner, who's gotten some looks in the red zone and at the goal line, so I really like that. Running it back here with Igbuka. Still no Mike Evans this week. He'll be the number 1 pass catcher. You could probably get a little unique here in putting in a Chris Godwin as well, but I really like what I've seen from the rookie wide receiver. And then Rashad White. No Bucky Irving here this week. Rashad White's going to be popular at this price, so maybe just say, hey, I want to get away from that in tournaments. You maybe find someone who's going to be a little less owned, but ultimately, like I said, I really like some of the pricing pieces here. Even if I do roster a super popular Rashad White, I can make my lineup unique elsewhere, so I'm not overly concerned about that. Now, folks, before we dive into some of these individual plays and stacks here, if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. Every interaction you guys have with me here on this channel, whether it be a like, comment, or sub, truly does help me out, and again, it's completely free to do. Alright, now diving into some of these individual plays and stacks here, we're going to kick it off at the quarterback position, and I quite like Spencer Rattler and the New Orleans Saints at home this week, and a solid spot against the New York Giants, and it's super cheap to stack up. If you wanted to go with Spencer Rattler, Rashid Shaheed, or Jawan Johnson, you can see every one of those guys are priced below $5K. You could even mix in a Chris Olave, who's priced at $5,200. I talked about him in my cash plays video. He's now seen double-digit targets in 3 of 4 games this year. So overall, just kind of like this game spot for them against the Giants at home. And again, it's very affordable to stack up. Next, we got the running backs here, and I talked about Saquon Barkley in my favorite tournament plays video last week, and I'm basically going to reiterate the same thing here again this week. Anytime we can get a player of Saquon's caliber at relatively low ownership, I'm going to take advantage of that in tournaments. Now, he was relatively, I don't want to say disappointing last week. He finished with 17, 18 DraftKings points in that game against the Buccaneers, but nowhere near what we need from him at this price of $7,500 when it comes to tournaments. But with that being said, we know the upside and ceiling that he offers, around 30, 35 plus DraftKings points in any given matchup. So he should float around that 10 to 12% ownership in tournaments this week, but nowhere near the top of most popular running backs. So again, I will take advantage of that. David Montgomery, like this spot here for him against the Cincinnati Bengals, really affordable at $5,200, and kind of a cool story here. Monty was doing an interview with Kay Adams earlier this week, and it sounds like his sister is going to be in attendance for this game. She was very unfortunately paralyzed in a car accident, and if I'm not mistaken, she has not been able to watch him play in person since that happened. And we all know that Dan Campbell's one of the best player coaches in the NFL. You can almost guarantee that he's going to force feed Monty at the goal line to get him a touchdown. But again, outside of the feel good story there, this is a good spot for him against the Cincinnati Bengals at a good price of $5,200. And just kind of going back to this game here between the Saints and Giants, the Giants really do want to put the ball in Scadaboo's hands, whether it be in the running game or passing game. He's been very capable catching the ball too. So if you wanted to do a little mini game stack with Spencer Rattler, say Rashid Shaheed, Juwan Johnson, run it back here with Scadaboo, kind of like that as well. Now, I know you're probably looking at the wide receivers right now going, really? You want to spend up for Jamar Chase with Jake Browning throwing him the ball? And this is a tournament-only play for me. I wouldn't touch him in my cash lineup. But the reality is he's projected around the 15 spot at wide receivers right now. Far too low for a guy of his caliber, in my opinion. Again, only for tournaments. But the reality is, this is a game where they're likely playing from behind and having to throw the ball a bunch in the second half. They should just force feed Jamar Chase targets, and he's a guy that can score from anywhere on the field. Take one of those slants to the house, he could be crushing value. So really comes down to his projected ownership. Like I said, he's floating around the 15 mark right now, and for a guy of his caliber, that's just a bit too low. Same thing here with Marvin Harrison Jr. I thought he was going to get steam with some ownership this week based off of the second half performance he had last week in week 4, but that isn't the case, so we're getting him at a good price here at $5,400 and a good spot at home against the Tennessee Titans. Talked about the New Orleans Saints already. Rashid Shaheed is one of those tournament plays that we love, who can score a 50-plus yard touchdown at any given moment. And then really the same thing here with Jamison Williams and Alec Pierce. These are kind of deep threat wide receivers that can score a touchdown from anywhere on the field. Two guys who are very affordable here in the 4K range and kind of going overlooked this week. When it comes to the tight ends here this week, I talked about a lot of the spend up options in my cash plays video, so again, make sure you go check that out. Guys like Jake Ferguson, Tyler Warren, even guys like Trey McBride at $5,800. I'll be considering them for cash as well as for my tournament lineups, but two guys that I wanted to highlight here specifically for tournaments are Sam Laporta and Juwan Johnson. Laporta, again, a guy who's just flying under the radar, not getting a lot of steam in the projected ownership, and he's one of those guys who can legitimately score multiple touchdowns in a game at affordable price there at $4,200, going up against Cincy, not a very good defense. And then, not to sound like a broken record, good spot here against the New York Giants for the New Orleans Saints. Talked about the stacking options with Spencer Rattler. Juwan Johnson has been a nice target monster for Spencer Rattler and had some really good games already in 4 games this season. So again, tournament only for these two, but make sure you go check out my cash plays video to see some of those higher priced options. And then wrapping it up here with the defenses, I kind of like spending up for a defense in my tournament lineup this week, largely due to the Saints and Texans here. They are going to be the two most popular defenses on this week 5 main slate. Now, if you need to find the money, spend down here for defense, I still think these two are in play, but if you can save a little money and spend up for the Eagles at home, taking on the Denver Broncos, I don't mind that at all. The Eagles defense has looked really good these last 2 weeks. You got the Lions taking on Jake Browning, and we know the Cincinnati Bengals offense has not been fireworks since Joe Burrow went out, so you kind of like the Lions here at $3,500. I like the Cardinals the best, though, at home, taking on a rookie quarterback in Cam Ward and the Tennessee Titans, who Cam Ward said that offense has been ass through 4 games so far this year, and he's not lying. So again, if I can spend up for one of these 3, I like kind of the diversity I get there, but if I need to save the money at defense, the Saints and Texans are still in play. Alright everyone, that is going to wrap up this video here for today. As always, thank y'all for taking the time out of your day to watch the content here on this channel. If you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. Let's have ourselves a great weekend here, folks, and let's win some money on this Week 5 NFL main slate.